The massive warship cut through the darkness of space like a metal beast hunting for prey. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, his forearms crossed behind his back as he stared at the holographic display showing a small blue planet in the distance. His purple scales gleamed under the artificial lights of the command center, and his yellow eyes held the cold confidence of a predator who had never known defeat. Behind him, the rest of the Zaphirian Imperial fleet stretched out across space like a cloud of death. 847 warships of various sizes moved in perfect formation, their hulls black as the void between stars. Each ship bristled with weapons that could turn mountains to dust and shields that had never been broken by any enemy they had faced. This was the most powerful military force in the known galaxy, and they were closing in on what their scouts had reported as a primitive world called Earth. Commander Zilth approached the Admiral with careful steps. Like all Zaphirians, Zilth had 4 arms and stood nearly 8 feet tall, but next to Admiral Vextar, he seemed small and nervous. His green scales were duller than the Admiral's, marking him as lower in the social order of their species. Carried a data pad in his upper right hand and held it out for the Admiral to see. "Admiral, our long-range scanners have completed their analysis of the target world," Zilth said, his voice carrying the hissing accent of their people. "The inhabitants appear to be even more primitive than our initial reports suggested." Vextar turned his head slowly, fixing his predatory gaze on his subordinate. "Show me what these creatures have managed to accomplish," he said, his voice carrying the weight of authority that came from conquering 312 worlds across the galaxy. The holographic display shifted to show images of Earth's technology. Crude chemical rockets struggled to break free from the planet's gravity. Simple space stations orbited the world like metal toys. Military vehicles rolled on wheels across the surface, armed with primitive projectile weapons that threw small pieces of metal at their enemies. The most advanced weapons the humans possessed were nuclear devices that worked by splitting atoms, technology the Zaphirians had abandoned thousands of years ago as too crude and inefficient. "They still burn fossil fuels for energy," Zilth continued, unable to hide the amusement in his voice. "Their fastest ships use chemical propulsion that would take them centuries to reach even their nearest star. They have divided themselves into competing nations that waste resources fighting each other instead of advancing their technology. By our estimates, they are at least 5,000 years behind our current level of development." Admiral Vextar allowed himself a slight smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "And yet they inhabit a world rich in rare minerals and perfectly positioned along the trade routes we wish to establish in this sector of the galaxy. Their primitive nature makes this conquest even more valuable. They will provide excellent slave labor for our mining operations, and their world will serve as an ideal staging point for further expansion into this region." The Admiral walked to the center of the bridge where a 3-dimensional map of the local star system rotated slowly above a circular platform. Earth appeared as a tiny blue dot, third from the local star. Other planets in the system were marked, with symbols indicating their resource potential. Several moons showed promising mineral deposits, and the asteroid belt between the 4th and 5th planets contained enough raw materials to fuel Zaphirian expansion for decades. "How long until we reach optimal attack position?" Vextar asked without taking his eyes off the display. 18 hours, Admiral," replied Lieutenant Krex from the navigation station. "We will emerge from hyperspace just outside their moon's orbit, well within range of our primary weapons, but far enough away to avoid any desperate attempts at retaliation." Vextar nodded approvingly. The standard Zaphirian battle plan had never failed. Emerge from hyperspace in overwhelming force, demand immediate surrender, and then systematically destroy any resistance until the enemy capitulated. Most species surrendered without firing a shot once they saw the size of the Imperial fleet. Those foolish enough to resist rarely lasted more than a few minutes against Zaphirian firepower. "Begin preparation of the standard surrender demand," the Admiral ordered. "Translate it into their primitive languages and prepare for broadcast on all their communication frequencies. Give them 24 of their local time units to respond." Commander Zilth began entering commands into his datapad. "Admiral, intelligence suggests they have over 200 separate nations on their world. Should we address their apparent leader?" They have no single leader, Vextar said with contempt. Typical of a primitive species. We will broadcast to all of them simultaneously. Let them argue among themselves about who has the authority to surrender. Their confusion will only make the conquest easier. The bridge fell into efficient activity as the crew prepared for what they expected to be another routine addition to the Zaphirian Empire. Weapons officers ran diagnostics on plasma cannons that could melt through solid rock. Shield technicians tested energy barriers that had deflected everything from nuclear weapons to antimatter bombs. Communications specialists prepared to monitor human transmissions for any signs of resistance planning. Meanwhile, far below on the blue planet, other eyes watched the approaching fleet with very different thoughts. In a fortified bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Pete Morrison stood before a wall of monitors showing the alien ships as they crossed the outer edge of the solar system. His gray hair was cut short in military fashion, and his weathered face showed the calm expression of a man who had spent decades preparing for this exact moment. Beside him, Dr. Lisa Hayes adjusted her glasses as she studied the sensor readings streaming across her computer screens. At 35, she was one of the youngest people ever to head a classified government project, but her brilliant mind had earned her the respect of military leaders twice her age. Her fingers danced across her keyboard as she analyzed the alien technology signatures. Their ships are exactly what we expected based on the recovered artifacts, she said quietly. Energy shields, plasma weapons, quantum communication systems, nothing we haven't seen before. General Morrison nodded slowly. And our countermeasures? Ready and waiting, Lisa replied with a slight smile. Project Heimdall has been online and fully operational for 6 months. All weapon systems are charged and targeted. Stealth ships are in position throughout the outer system. We've been tracking their approach since they entered sensor range 3 days ago. The general walked to a secure communication terminal and placed his hand on the biometric scanner. The device beeped softly and displayed a green light confirming his identity. Attention all Terra defense stations, he spoke into the microphone. The moment we have been preparing for has arrived. Alien forces are approaching Earth with obvious, hostile intent. All personnel are to report to battle stations immediately. This is not a drill. Across the planet, in hidden facilities that the public had never suspected existed, thousands of military personnel and scientists began the final preparations for humanity's first interstellar war. Deep space monitoring stations that the world believed were simple radio telescopes revealed their true nature as advanced sensor arrays. Underground missile silos opened to reveal weapons that used principles of physics most humans didn't know existed. Orbital platforms that appeared to be simple communication satellites deployed weapon systems that had been decades in development. Captain Amy Rodriguez sat in the pilot seat of her stealth ship Valkyrie, watching the alien fleet through sensors that could detect individual ships from millions of miles away. Her vessel hung motionless in the shadow of an asteroid, completely invisible to any known detection method. Amy had been handpicked for this mission because of her exceptional piloting skills and her ability to remain calm under pressure. Around her, dozens of other Earth Defense Force ships waited in similar hiding spots throughout the solar system. All ships, this is Terra Command, came the voice of Colonel Jake Carter through her secure communication system. Enemy fleet will reach optimal engagement range in 17 hours. Continue monitoring protocols. Do not reveal position under any circumstances until given direct authorization. Remember, the element of surprise is our greatest advantage. Amy smiled grimly as she watched the alien ships move closer to Earth. The Zaphirians had no idea what they were flying into. For over 50 years, humanity had been preparing for this day, building weapons and defenses that would have seemed like magic to earlier generations. The aliens were about to learn that appearances could be very deceiving. Admiral Vextar stood on his bridge, confident in his inevitable victory, unaware that his prey had teeth. The elevator descended for what felt like an eternity, carrying Colonel Jake Carter deeper into the heart of the Rocky Mountains. The shaft was carved from solid rock and reinforced with materials that could withstand a direct nuclear strike. Red lights flashed along the walls as the elevator dropped past level after level of the most classified military installation on Earth. When the doors finally opened, Jake stepped into a vast underground complex that stretched as far as the eye could see. The facility hummed with activity as thousands of personnel rushed to their battle stations. Scientists in white coats worked alongside military officers in crisp uniforms, their faces focused and determined. Massive screens lined the walls, displaying real-time information about the approaching alien fleet. The air was filled with the quiet beeping of computers and the soft voices of technicians coordinating humanity's defense. Jake walked quickly through the corridors, his boots clicking against the polished metal floor. He had spent the last 15 years of his life preparing for this moment. Ever since he was first briefed on the Terra Defense Initiative, the project had consumed his entire adult life, but now he would finally see if their preparations were enough to save humanity from extinction. Dr. Lisa Hayes was waiting for him in the main command center, a circular room filled with holographic displays and monitoring stations. She stood before the largest screen, which showed a detailed view of the alien fleet as it moved through space. Her fingers danced across a transparent control panel, adjusting sensors and analyzing data streams that most people would find incomprehensible. "Status report," Jake said as he approached her workstation. "All systems are green across the board," Lisa replied without taking her eyes off the display. "Project Heimdall has been fully activated. Every defensive platform in the solar system is online and ready for combat. Our stealth ships are maintaining position and continuing to gather intelligence on enemy capabilities." Jake studied the alien vessels on the screen. Each ship was enormous, easily 10 times larger than anything humanity had ever built for public knowledge. Their hulls gleamed with an otherworldly metal that seemed to absorb light, and energy readings showed they possessed weapons powerful enough to destroy entire cities with a single shot. "Remind me again how we're supposed to fight these things," Jake said with a slight smile. Lisa turned to face him, her expression serious but confident. "The same way we've been planning to fight them since 1977. Back then we intercepted a transmission from a damaged alien scout ship. The message was a warning about something called the Zaphirian Empire, a species that conquered worlds for resources and slaves. That transmission changed everything." She gestured to the screens around them, which showed technical readouts of weapons and systems that seemed to belong in a science fiction movie. "For nearly 50 years, we've been developing technology based on principles we learned from studying that crashed scout ship. While the public space program struggled to reach the moon with chemical rockets, our real scientists were working on projects that would have seemed impossible just decades ago." Jake nodded, remembering his first briefing on the subject. The revelation that humanity had been secretly preparing for an alien invasion had been almost too much to believe, but the evidence was overwhelming, and the technology they had developed was beyond anything most people could imagine. "The key was making sure the aliens never suspected our true capabilities," Lisa continued. "We deliberately kept our public technology primitive. NASA's missions used outdated rockets and simple computers to maintain the illusion that we were still struggling with basic spaceflight. Meanwhile, our real spacecraft were using propulsion systems that bend space and time itself." Captain Amy Rodriguez floated in the cockpit of her stealth ship Valkyrie, watching the alien fleet through sensors that could detect individual crew members aboard enemy vessels. Her ship was a masterpiece of human engineering, incorporating technology reverse-engineered from alien artifacts and improved by Earth's greatest minds. The Valkyrie was invisible to all known detection methods, its hull coated with materials that bent light around it like water flowing around a stone. Amy had been training for this mission for over 10 years, learning to pilot spacecraft that operated on principles most humans had never heard of. Her ship could travel faster than light, phase in and out of normal space, and deploy weapons that manipulated the fundamental forces of reality. She was one of only 200 pilots qualified to operate such advanced technology. "Valkyrie 2, Terra Command," she whispered into her communication headset. "I'm reading energy signatures from the alien flagship. Their shields are operating at full power, and I'm detecting charge buildup in what appears to be their main weapon systems." Colonel Jake Carter's voice came through her earpiece clearly despite the vast distance between them. "Understood, Valkyrie. Continue observation protocols. Do not engage until given direct authorization. Amy smiled as she watched the alien ships move closer to Earth. The Zaphirians had no idea they were being watched by technology far superior to their own. Human stealth ships had been following their fleet for weeks, gathering detailed information about their weapons, shields, and tactics. Every piece of data was being fed back to Terra Command, where military strategists were developing plans to counter every possible alien attack. Meanwhile, on the lunar surface, Technical Officer Ben Clark worked in the Luna Defense Station, a facility that the public believed was a simple research outpost. In reality, it was one of the most heavily fortified positions in the solar system, equipped with weapons that could destroy incoming asteroids and shields that could deflect energy beams powerful enough to crack planets. Ben was 28 years old and had volunteered for the dangerous assignment because he believed in humanity's cause. Living on the moon meant constant risk from radiation and equipment failure, but it also meant being on the front lines of Earth's defense. The Luna Station was equipped with some of the most advanced technology humanity had ever developed, including quantum shields that could absorb and redirect enemy attacks. Terra Command, this is Luna Station. Ben spoke into his communication system. All defensive systems are operational. Power levels are at maximum, and targeting computers have locked onto the alien fleet. We're ready for whatever they throw at us. Dr. Lisa Hayes received Ben's report and added it to the growing list of confirmations from defense stations throughout the solar system. Hidden bases on asteroids, stealth platforms in the outer planets, and orbital weapons disguised. As communication satellites all reported ready status, humanity had turned their entire solar system into a trap, and the Zaphirians were flying straight into it. Admiral Vextar stood on his flagship bridge, completely unaware of the forces arrayed against him. His sensors detected only the primitive technology that humanity wanted him to see. Simple radio transmissions from Earth carried messages of fear and confusion as human governments pretended to debate their response to the alien ultimatum. Chemical rockets launched from the planet's surface in apparent panic, their crews seemingly fleeing to distant space stations. The primitives are reacting exactly as expected, Commander Zilth reported with satisfaction. Panic is spreading across their world. Several of their nations are broadcasting surrender offers, while others are preparing their pitiful military forces for hopeless resistance. Vextar allowed himself a moment of satisfaction as he watched the human response. Every species reacted the same way when faced with Zaphirian might. First came denial, then fear, then desperate attempts at negotiation or resistance. It always ended the same way, with complete capitulation and acceptance of Imperial rule. Prepare to demonstrate our power, the Admiral ordered. Target one of their lunar installations with a precision strike. Destroying it will show them the futility of resistance and encourage a quicker surrender. The crew began preparing for the attack, unaware that they were about to trigger a response that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Hidden weapon systems throughout the solar system began final charging sequences. Stealth ships moved into optimal attack positions, and in the depths of the Rocky Mountains, Colonel Jake Carter gave the order that would reveal humanity's true nature to the universe. "Attention all Terra Defense Forces," he announced over the secure communication network. "The enemy has committed to hostile action. Prepare to drop all pretense and show these aliens what humanity is really capable of." The first shot came from Admiral Vextar's flagship, a brilliant beam of purple energy that streaked across space toward the Luna Defense Station. The plasma bolt contained enough power to vaporize a city, and it struck the lunar facility with the force of a small nuclear weapon. For a moment, the entire surface of the moon was lit up in blinding light as the alien weapon made contact with its target. Technical Officer Ben Clark watched calmly from his control station as the energy readings spiked across his screens. The Luna Station's quantum shields absorbed the massive plasma blast like a sponge soaking up water. Instead of being destroyed, the facility converted the alien weapon's energy into power for Earth's defensive systems. Warning lights flashed, green instead of red, indicating successful energy absorption rather than damage. "Terra Command, this is Luna Station," Ben reported with satisfaction in his voice. "Enemy attack has been absorbed and converted. Our shields are holding at 100%, and we've gained a 30% boost to our power grid. Recommend immediate counterattack while we have this energy advantage. The message reached Colonel Jake Carter in the command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. He looked at Dr. Lisa Hayes, who nodded and smiled grimly. The moment they had prepared, for during 5 decades of secret development had finally arrived. Humanity was about to show the galaxy what they were really capable of achieving. All Terra Defense Forces, this is Terra Command. Jake spoke into his communications system with calm authority. Operation Thunderstrike is now authorized. Repeat, Operation Thunderstrike is authorized. Drop all stealth protocols and engage the enemy with full force. Captain Amy Rodriguez felt her heart rate increase as the order came through her headset. She had been waiting in the shadow of an asteroid for hours, watching the alien fleet through her advanced sensors while remaining completely invisible to their detection systems. Now it was time to reveal the Valkyrie and show the Zaphirians what human technology could really do. Computer, disengage stealth field and bring all weapons online. Amy commanded her ship's artificial intelligence system. The space around the alien fleet suddenly filled with Earth Defense Force vessels as 200 human ships dropped their cloaking field simultaneously. The Valkyrie appeared first, materializing out of empty space like a ghost becoming solid. Other ships followed, emerging from behind asteroids, from within nebula clouds, and from impossible hiding places that shouldn't have been able to conceal anything larger than a small probe. Admiral Vextar stared at his sensor displays in complete shock as human ships appeared all around his fleet. This was impossible according to everything his intelligence reports had told him about Earth's primitive technology. The energy signatures coming from the human vessels were unlike anything in Zaphirian databases. Their power readings suggested propulsion systems that used controlled black holes and weapons that manipulated space and time itself. How is this possible? Vexitar demanded, his voice carrying panic for the first time in his military career. Our scouts reported these creatures had barely learned to split atoms. They should not possess technology more advanced than simple chemical rockets and nuclear weapons. Commander Zilth frantically worked at his sensor station, trying to make sense of the readings streaming across his screens. Admiral, I'm detecting energy signatures that match theoretical descriptions of singularity drives and quantum disruptors. But that's impossible. No species should be able to develop such technology without first mastering plasma weapons and energy shields. The truth was that humanity had skipped thousands of years of normal technological development by reverse engineering alien technology and improving it with human innovation, while other species had evolved their science slowly over millennia. Earth scientists had started with advanced alien principles and pushed them far beyond what their original creators had achieved. Captain Rick Thompson commanded the Earth ship Retribution from his position in the center of the human formation. His vessel was armed with gravity manipulation weapons that could create artificial gravitational fields strong enough to crush enemy ships or force them to collide with each other. Rick had been a submarine commander before joining the Terra Defense Force, and he understood the importance of using the environment as a weapon. Retribution to all Earth ships, Rick announced over the communication network. Target the 2 largest alien dreadnoughts and prepare for gravity well deployment. Let's show these invaders what happens when they threaten our home. The Retribution fired its main weapon, creating a localized gravity field between 2 massive Zaphirian warships. The artificial gravitational pull was so strong that both alien vessels were yanked toward each other at incredible speed. Their pilots tried desperately to compensate with their engines, but the human gravity weapon was far more powerful than anything their technology could counter. The 2 alien dreadnoughts collided with tremendous force, their hulls crumpling like metal, cans being crushed in a giant's fist. Explosions rippled along both ships as their internal systems failed, and their power cores went critical. Within seconds, 2 of the most powerful vessels in the Zaphirian fleet had been destroyed by a single shot from a human weapon. Lieutenant Sarah Bennett piloted her ship Nemesis through the alien formation, with the skill of someone who had trained for this moment her entire adult life. At 26, she was the youngest ship captain in the Earth Defense Force, but she had earned her position through pure talent and dedication. Her vessel was equipped with nano-weapon systems that could break down enemy ships at the molecular level. Nemesis deploying nanocloud against enemy frigate cluster, Sarah reported, as she released a swarm of microscopic machines into space. The nanobots spread out in an invisible cloud, seeking alien ships and beginning the process of disassembling their hulls, atom by atom. The Zaphirian frigates tried to escape as their outer armor began to dissolve, but the nanobots worked faster than the alien ships could move. Within minutes, 6 enemy vessels had been reduced to their component elements, leaving nothing behind but scattered particles of metal and plastic floating in space. Admiral Vextar watched in horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed by weapons that seemed to violate the laws of physics. Zaphirian plasma cannons fired desperately at the human ships, but the energy beams passed through them without causing any damage. The Earth vessels seemed to exist in a state of controlled temporal flux, making them nearly impossible to target with conventional weapons. All ships concentrate fire on the nearest human vessel, Vextar ordered frantically. Focus everything we have on a single target. Surely we can overwhelm their defenses if we work together. 50 Zaphirian ships turned their weapons toward Captain Amy Rodriguez's Valkyrie and fired simultaneously. The combined plasma burst contained enough energy to melt a small moon. But when it struck the human ship, the energy was absorbed and converted into power for Amy's own weapon systems. Her ship's shields didn't just deflect the attack, they fed on it and grew stronger. "Thanks for the energy boost," Amy said with a grin as she targeted the alien flagship with her ship's main cannon. "Let me return the favor with interest." The Valkyrie's quantum disruptor fired a beam of coherent energy that phased the Admiral's ship partially out of normal space-time. The Zaphirian flagship began to flicker like a bad hologram as parts of it existed in different dimensional states. The crew found themselves unable to control their vessel as it drifted helplessly through space, caught between realities. Dr. Lisa Hayes monitored the battle from Terra Command, watching as the alien fleet that had seemed so threatening just minutes before was reduced to scattered debris and disabled ships. The Zaphirians had arrived expecting to face primitive humans with chemical rockets and nuclear weapons. Instead, they had encountered a species that had spent 50 years developing technology that made their own weapons look like stone axes. "All Earth ships, this is Terra Command," Colonel Jake Carter announced. "Excellent work. Continue engagement, protocols, and prepare for prisoner retrieval operations. We need those alien databases intact if we're going to understand the full scope of their empire." The battle that the Zaphirians had expected to last minutes was already over, but not in the way they had planned. Humanity had revealed its true technological capabilities, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The Zaphirian fleet was falling apart under the relentless assault of human weapons that defied everything they understood about warfare. Admiral Vextar gripped the command console of his flagship as another wave of explosions rocked through the alien formation. His sensors showed that over half of his 800 ships had already been destroyed or disabled, and the human forces showed no signs of slowing their attack. Commander Zilth rushed to the Admiral's side, his forearms shaking as he held a damage report. "Admiral, we have lost contact with the entire 7th Battle Group. The humans have deployed some kind of dimensional weapon that simply erases our ships from existence. Our quantum communicators cannot even detect where those vessels have gone." The weapon Zilth described belonged to Commander Steve Walsh, who piloted the Earthship Devastator from his position at the edge of the battle zone. Steve had been a physics professor at MIT before joining the Terra Defense Force, and he understood the terrible power of the weapons he controlled better than anyone. His ship was equipped with a black hole generator that could create artificial singularities on command. "Devastator to Terra Command," Steve reported calmly as he targeted another cluster of alien ships, preparing to deploy gravitational anomaly against enemy battlecruiser formation. "Recommend all friendly ships maintain minimum safe distance of 50,000 kilometers." The warning was unnecessary since human ships were equipped with shields that could protect them from gravitational effects, but Steve followed safety protocols regardless. He activated his main weapon, and space itself seemed to twist and bend as a micro-black hole appeared in the center of the Zaphirian formation. The artificial singularity lasted only seconds before collapsing. But that was long enough to pull 6 enemy ships into a dimensional rift that removed them from normal space-time entirely. Major Dan Foster had taken a different approach to dealing with the alien threat. His stealth ship Phantom was equipped with phase shift technology that allowed it to pass through solid matter as if it didn't exist. Dan had been a special forces operative before joining the space program, and he understood the value of striking at the enemy's command structure. The Phantom materialized inside the bridge of Admiral Vextar's flagship, its hull occupying the same space as the alien command center without causing any physical damage. Dan stepped out of his ship wearing a combat suit that protected him from the alien atmosphere, while allowing him to move freely through the enemy vessel. Admiral Vextar spun around in shock, as a human soldier appeared on his bridge as if transported, there by magic. The alien admiral was over 8 feet tall and weighed nearly 400 pounds, but he took an involuntary step backward when he saw the calm expression on Dan's face. The human was smaller and lighter than any Zaphirian, but something in his eyes suggested he was far more dangerous than his appearance indicated. "Surrender your fleet immediately," Dan said, his voice amplified by his suit's communication system so the aliens could understand him. "Your ships are completely outmatched, and continuing this battle will only result in more unnecessary deaths." "Commander," Zilth drew his plasma sidearm and aimed it at the human intruder, but the energy beam passed harmlessly through Dan's body as his suit shifted into a different phase of reality. Dan walked calmly toward the alien communication console, his boots making no sound on the metal deck. "Your weapons cannot harm me," Dan explained as he began entering commands into the alien computer system. "I'm broadcasting a surrender signal on all Zaphirian military frequencies. Any ship that powers down its weapons and shields will be spared. Those that continue fighting will be destroyed." Lieutenant Sarah Bennett received the surrender broadcast aboard her ship Nemesis, but she was too busy with her current target to pay much attention to it. A group of Zaphirian destroyers had attempted to break away from the main battle and escape toward the edge of the solar system. Sarah's job was to make sure none of them reached the hyperspace jump point, where they might flee to summon reinforcements. Her ship's nano-weapon systems were perfectly suited for this kind of pursuit. The microscopic machines could travel faster than conventional projectiles and seek out enemy ships across vast distances. Sarah released another cloud of nanobots as the fleeing aliens passed near Jupiter's orbit. "Nemesis to Terra Command," she reported as her weapons found their targets. "Enemy escape attempt has been neutralized. NanoCloud is breaking down the hulls of all 6 destroyers. They won't be calling for help anytime soon." The nanobots worked with terrifying efficiency, disassembling the alien ships molecule by molecule while their crews watched helplessly. The Zaphirian vessels tried to purge their atmosphere and jettison infected hull sections, but the nanobots were designed to adapt and spread faster than any countermeasure could stop them. Captain Rick Thompson was methodically working his way through the larger alien ships with his gravity manipulation weapons. The Retribution had become a terror weapon that could crush enemy vessels like empty cans or fling them into each other with irresistible force. Rick had developed a cold efficiency in his attacks that would have shocked his former submarine crew. "Retribution targeting enemy command carrier," Rick announced as he locked onto one of the largest ships in the Zaphirian fleet. "Gravity well deployment in 3 seconds. The massive alien vessel tried to evade the attack by firing its engines at maximum power, but the artificial gravity field caught it anyway. The command carrier was pulled inexorably toward a nearby asteroid, its hull screaming as metal stressed beyond its design limits. The ship impacted the rock with tremendous force, both the vessel and the asteroid shattering into fragments that glowed red-hot from the collision. Dr. Lisa Hayes watched the battle from Terra Command with a mixture of satisfaction and concern. The human forces were winning decisively, but she worried about the precedent they were setting. Earth had revealed technology so advanced that it would fundamentally change how other species viewed humanity. "Colonel Carter," she said to Jake, as he monitored the tactical displays, "we're not just defeating them, we're demonstrating capabilities that will terrify every other species in the galaxy. Once word of this battle spreads, humanity will be seen as either saviors or the greatest threat the universe has ever known." Jake nodded grimly as he watched another wave of alien ships disappear from the sensors. "That's a problem we'll deal with after we finish protecting our world," Right now, the priority is making sure these invaders never threaten Earth again. Admiral Vextar finally realized that his position was hopeless. The humans possessed technology that was thousands of years ahead of anything in the Zaphirian arsenal. Their weapons could manipulate gravity, phase matter through solid objects, disassemble ships at the molecular level, and create pocket dimensions that erased targets from existence. Fighting them was not just futile, it was suicide. All ships, this is Admiral Vextar. He broadcast on all fleet frequencies. Cease fire immediately and power down all weapon systems. We surrender to the human forces. The order came too late for most of his fleet. Of the 847 ships that had entered the solar system with such confidence, fewer than 50 remained operational. The rest had been destroyed, disabled, or simply erased from reality by human weapons that seemed to violate the fundamental laws of physics. Captain Amy Rodriguez received the surrender signal aboard the Valkyrie, but she kept her weapons trained on the remaining alien ships. Trust was something that had to be earned, and species that conquered other worlds for slaves and resources rarely kept their promises. All Earth ships, maintain attack readiness, she broadcast to the human fleet. Accept surrender only from vessels that have completely powered down all systems. Any ship that shows energy buildup is to be considered hostile and engaged immediately. The battle for Earth was over, but the consequences would reshape the galaxy forever. The silence that followed the alien surrender was almost more shocking than the battle itself. Where moments before space had been filled with the energy beams and explosions of interstellar warfare, now only the quiet hum of human ships remained. Floating debris from destroyed Zaphirian vessels drifted slowly through the solar system, glinting in the light of Earth's sun like metallic snow. Admiral Vextar sat in his command chair aboard his crippled flagship, staring at screens that showed the complete destruction of his once mighty fleet. Of the 847 ships that had entered the solar system with such confidence, only 43 remained intact enough to sustain life. The rest were either completely destroyed or so damaged that their crews had been forced to abandon them in escape pods. Major Dan Foster stood behind the alien admiral, his phase-shifted combat suit allowing him to remain on the bridge while human boarding parties secured the rest of the ship. Dan had removed his helmet to show his face to the defeated aliens, and his calm expression seemed to disturb them more than any weapon could have. Your Empire's database contains information about 312 conquered worlds, Dan said as he accessed the ship's computer systems. We'll need complete star charts, military deployment schedules, and communication codes for all Zaphirian forces currently engaged in operations against other species. Admiral Vextar turned his massive head to look at the human soldier with a mixture of fear and confusion. You cannot seriously be considering military action against the entire Zaphirian Empire. We control thousands of star systems across this galaxy. Our total fleet numbers in the tens of thousands of ships. Dan smiled coldly as he downloaded terabytes of classified alien military data. Your empire exists because you've only fought species with primitive technology. That advantage ends today. Humanity is going to liberate every world you've conquered, and we're going to hunt down every Zaphirian military force until your empire no longer exists. The threat was not an empty boast. Even as Dan spoke, shipyards hidden throughout the solar system were already beginning production of new Earth Defense Force vessels. The technology that had destroyed the invasion fleet would be mass-produced and improved upon. Humanity had decided that the best defense against future alien threats was to eliminate those threats at their source. Dr. Lisa Hayes worked frantically in her laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains, analyzing captured Zaphirian technology and comparing it to human innovations. The alien computers contained detailed information about dozens of other species currently fighting for survival against Imperial forces. Some civilizations had been resisting Zaphirian conquest for decades, while others had only recently become targets. Colonel Carter, you need to see this, Lisa called to Jake as he entered her research facility. She gestured to a holographic display showing a three-dimensional map of local galactic space. Red markers indicated Zaphirian-controlled systems, while blue dots showed worlds currently under attack or siege. Jake studied the map with growing anger. The scope of Zaphirian brutality was staggering. Entire civilizations had been enslaved or exterminated to feed the Empire's expansion. Billions of sentient beings lived under alien oppression, their resources stripped away to fund further conquests. How long would it take us to reach the nearest battle zone? Jake asked, his military mind already planning intervention strategies. With our new hyperspace drives, we could have a fleet there within 6 weeks, Lisa replied. The Zaphirians are currently besieging a world called Kepler-7. The local species has been fighting them for 3 years, but their defenses are failing. Without help, the planet will fall within 2 months. Jake nodded grimly. Then we'll make sure they get help. Start preparing a liberation fleet immediately. I want our most advanced ships ready for interstellar deployment as soon as possible. Captain Amy Rodriguez was already volunteering for the mission before it was officially announced. She stood in the briefing room aboard Terra Station, a massive space platform that served as headquarters for humanity's expanding military operations. Around her, dozens of other ship captains and military officers studied tactical displays showing Zaphirian positions throughout the galaxy. The Valkyrie and her sister ships are ready for extended operations, Amy reported to the assembled commanders. Our stealth technology will allow us to gather intelligence on enemy positions before launching coordinated strikes. We can hit multiple targets simultaneously across several star systems. General Pete Morrison addressed the gathering from a podium at the front of the room. His weathered face showed the strain of commanding humanity's first interstellar military campaign, but his voice carried absolute determination. Ladies and gentlemen, 6 months ago the world didn't even know that alien life existed. Today we're planning to liberate an entire galaxy from tyranny. The technology we've developed gives us capabilities that no other species possesses. We have a responsibility to use those capabilities to help others who cannot defend themselves. The general activated a holographic display showing the Kepler-7 system. Our first target is heavily fortified with over 200 Zaphirian ships maintaining siege positions around the planet. The local defenders have requested assistance through channels we've established with refugee populations. We will not let them down. President Helen Carter stood before the United Nations General Assembly in New York, addressing not just Earth's leaders but broadcasting on frequencies that would reach across known space. Helen was Jake's younger sister, and she had been elected to lead humanity through this historic transition from an isolated world to a galactic power. My fellow humans and all sentient beings who may be listening to this transmission, Helen began, her voice carrying clearly through the packed assembly hall. Today marks the beginning of a new era for our galaxy. For too long, aggressive empires have conquered and enslaved peaceful civilizations. Humanity will not stand by while others suffer under tyranny. The president gestured to screens showing images of liberated Zaphirian prisoners and recovered alien databases. We have learned of hundreds of worlds living under oppression, species that once knew freedom now serve as slaves in alien mines and factories. Children are taken from their families to be trained as soldiers for Imperial armies. This ends now. Helen's expression hardened as she continued her address. Humanity offers protection and alliance to any species willing to stand against conquest and slavery. We will share our defensive technology with peaceful civilizations and hunt down military forces that threaten innocent populations. The age of galactic empires built on suffering is over. The message was broadcast on every known alien communication frequency, reaching species across dozens of star systems. For some, it represented the first hope they had felt in generations. For others, particularly those benefiting from the current Imperial system, it was a declaration of war against the established order. Admiral Vextar sat in his prison cell, aboard Terra Station, writing his final report to Zaphirian High Command. His hands shook as he composed what he knew would be his last official communication. The humans had made it clear that war crimes trials would be held for all Imperial officers involved in genocide and slavery. To the Supreme Command of the Zaphirian Empire, he wrote on a datapad that would be transmitted through captured communication equipment. Do not send reinforcements to the Sol system. Do not attempt rescue operations. Avoid all human-controlled space at any cost. The species we attempted to conquer possesses technology beyond our understanding and weapons that can erase fleets from existence. Vextar paused in his writing, remembering the horror of watching his proud fleet destroyed in minutes by creatures he had dismissed as primitives. The humans are not what they appear to be. They have hidden their true capabilities while developing weapons that manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. They can phase through solid matter, control gravity itself, and create pocket dimensions that remove targets from normal space-time. The former admiral finished his message with a warning that would soon spread throughout the galaxy. Humanity has declared war on our empire, and all others like it. They possess the technology to back up their threats, and they have shown no mercy to those who threaten their world. We came as conquerors and discovered that we were nothing more than prey. The hunters have become the hunted, and humanity is coming for all of us.